Thank you, Raji. And it's a great pleasure to be here talking in this interdisciplinary workshop. So you have heard about the laser plasma acceleration all these weeks, several talks from the very people who are working in this field. So this particular talk is nothing to do with the laser plasma acceleration, but I'll tell you about the conventional accelerators and what challenges we have in the accelerator field today, and what in the country, what is the involvement in the community in the accelerator physics, what kind of accelerators are we involved in making or planning, and what is the future prospect, and how prepared are we to tackle that. I will also tell you the limitations of the accelerators at what is the energy that you can expect with the conventional systems that we know of today with the technologies. Well, to start with, this is the first commercial, the telling about the accelerator usage, which you are all quite familiar with, probably have heard about it as well. In fact, accelerators today, I don't know if you know, that there are more than 30,000 accelerators is in operation in the world today. But only about 2 to 3% are used for basic research. The rest are used for applications, societal applications. In fact, large percentage of them, 40%, about 44% of them are used for producing isotopes and medical therapy, diagnostics and therapy. In fact, today, almost all the top hospitals have linear accelerators, electron linacs, for diagnosis as well as therapy. And of course, you've heard about these isotopes which are used for positron emission tomography scans, the SPECT scans for the heart monitoring, and then also various other diagnostics for different diseases. And there are industrial usage. This is a collage which tells you that accelerators produce better quality heart valves so that they can be biocompatible. The surfaces, titanium ones, have to be irradiated a certain way to make them more biocompatible and acceptable. You irradiate food. These are used today in India. There is a mandi in Indore where the vegetables are being irradiated, and there are in Vasi, there are in Navi Mumbai, there is a plant where, and in BRC they have done a lot of the seeds are then released they are used in the market for the groundnuts in the entire Maharashtra and Gujarat. Are larger part of it comes from the irradiation facility. Including, we can make babies' diapers, better absorbent materials, plastics by irradiation. And these are in the market. And from point of view of the fundamental physics, you want to study how the elements are formed, you need accelerators. You want to go back to in the beginning of the universe, very high density situations, you need very high energy accelerators, the colliders, where you can produce this fleetingly for a time for 10 minus 23 seconds, the conditions, the energy density that was produced right after the Big Bang. We are very close to that. And then, of course, the CERN colliders, where all particle physics has come out of accelerators, using accelerators. And then you can check art objects, whether they're authentic or not. In fact, many of the museums today have accelerators in them. In the Louvre Museum, the basement, there is a small accelerator which is used for checking forgeries. And then, of course, you have therapy. And then structure of proteins and medical supplies. All medical supplies which we make in India and have to export to Europe or America have to be irradiated for sterilization. Well, that makes the case for the accelerator, which you don't have to make anymore because you know that it's being used. It all started with Rutherford when he discovered the nucleus. This experiment, especially for those who have beginning in the research, I always tell them that this is the experiment, Rutherford experiment is the experiment, physics experiment of the 20th century. Because all particle physics, all nuclear physics is just a repetition of the Rutherford experiment in a way. And this experiment is not just one experiment which you read about in textbook, that he took these alpha particles, shot across these gold foil and saw these things recoiling, and then immediately he thought about the nucleus, that the charge is concentrated in the center, very small area of the atom, 1/10,000th of it. This actually his students, Geiger and Rutherford and Marsden, they toiled for 3 years. His first experiment was done in 2008, and then finally the detailed set of experiments were done. And then Rutherford got this idea of the nucleus in 1911. It's worth going through that. I think it's a good education for going to the history of the Rutherford experiment. After that, in 1927, Rutherford gave a lecture where he said, what we require is an apparatus to give us a potential of the order of 10 million volts. I see no reason why such a requirement cannot be practical. He was absolutely a top-notch researcher, so obviously after he found the nucleus, he wanted to study it. So he wanted to get these high energies to penetrate the nucleus. And this started the whole business of accelerators. And he was not only a great top-notch accelerator, top-notch scientist, he was a great inspirational person also. So he inspired his students to build accelerators. And the early accelerators were built by his students. Now, what constitutes an accelerator? What will it define? How will it define? We define it by the number of components, that it must have a source of either electrons or ions, which you want to energize. Is the accelerating structure, the structure that you prepare, which will impart the energy to these particles. Third is the beam guidance and transport. It means start from one place, and you have to take these electrons or the ions to the final target without losing them on the way, without losing their energy, without losing any of them. For that, you need high vacuum enclosures, because you don't want your beam particles, energetic particles, to hit these air molecules. You need power supplies, either DC or AC, RF, and the control systems. These 6 systems make up an accelerator. And for making an accelerator a successful accelerator, all of these have to work together. What are the important things in the source electrons and ions? The number, that which will determine the total number of particles that you can energize. That's important, because that will tell you the reaction rate, what you can study with that. The emittance, that is how they're emitted in both transverse direction as well as longitudinal. That means in space and time. So it's how big is the spot that you're finally going to get in space, and what is the time structure of that, of the bunch. Are they coming in all in very short period of time or over a long period of time? You could have a DC beam, continuous beam, or you can have pulse beam. The structures can be 2 types, one electrostatic and the other electromagnetic, and there have been several models of types of accelerators built over the years, and using these principles. And even today, the accelerators that are working use both of these. It's not that the electrostatic is obsolete, they are used even today in many cases. Beam guidance transport, there you need the bending of beams and the focusing of beams in both directions. Again, focusing also in transverse and longitudinal, in time as well as space. So these are the things to keep in mind, and when you are thinking of laser plasma accelerator, you have to keep all these things in mind to get a successful accelerator. If any of these components are missing, you will not end up having a useful practical accelerator. It started with the early accelerators were these first ones, successful ones were done by Cockcroft and Water. They were students of Rutherford, and in 1931, they built this Cockcroft-Water voltage doubler circuits consisting of just capacitors and diodes combined together in a ladder structure, which are voltage doublers. These voltage doublers are used today in most of the power supplies. Most of the low voltage power supplies use these doubler circuits. And even now, most of the large accelerators also the big accelerators, use in the initial stage this kind of accelerator, copper voltage. And with that, in 1932, they studied the very first nuclear reaction with man-made accelerated particles. That was this one. Lithium-7 was bombarded, the two heliums were formed at 400 keV. And they pipped the other development of the circular accelerator which was going on at, by Lawrence in America, because they had the advantage of knowing that George Gamow's theory of the tunneling under the barrier. Although the Coulomb barrier was much higher, they could get this reaction at 400 keV below the barrier because they knew about Gamow's theory. The next development of this electrostatic accelerator was in the tandem accelerator, the Van de Graaff accelerator, Robert Van de Graaff. Again, it was around the same time, just about a year or so later. He found this principle, that he charged this sphere by a belt, by insulated belt, by throwing electrostatic charge at it, and then rapidly charging this sphere. It's just a capacitor charging. So the total voltage that you produce is Q equal to the C, the charge put there divided by the capacitance. That gives you the voltage. It's just straightforward electrostatics. And with that, he could generate million volts, near million volts. And there are versions of it, much bigger ones, which we are operating today in India. I'll show you the pictures of that in Bombay as well as in Delhi. And then the other development around the same time, in fact, it's slightly earlier, was the accelerator based on the alternating cycle, the radio frequency accelerators. This was done by Rolf Widerøe, a Norwegian, working in Aachen, Germany. In fact, he took the idea of Gustav Ising's, which was in 1924, that the alternating field can be used for acceleration. But Widerøe in 1928, he took up this problem and he suggested, he went to his supervisor and he wanted to write a thesis on this. So his supervisor said, this is a very difficult problem. You will not be able to complete your work and you won't be able to get your PhD. So you better go into something else. But Widerøe, being Rolf Widerøe, he just went ahead and wrote this paper and published it in 1928 on the linear accelerator principle. And in fact, he built one where he could accelerate nitrogen to about 25 kilovolts. Now, this paper was written in German, and in 1929, in Berkeley, there was a young man, 27-year-old man, Ernest Wilson. He read this paper, German paper. He didn't know German, but he could see the diagram and he could understand the diagram. And he jumped at it and said, oh, this is a great idea, this alternating voltage thing. So let me now put it in a magnetic field and let the particles go around and get accelerated. So he invented the cyclotron. And in fact, nature was kind to Lawrence because he got he's got the acceleration and the magnetic field rotation, the frequency. No, sorry, I this is Ernest Lawrence. Ernest Lawrence, who did this, he was at 27 years old at that time, and just became an associate professor in Berkeley. And he read that, and he had this. He found that relation. The frequency was coming as the magnetic field by mass. It didn't depend on the energy at all. So that means as the energy increased, the frequency doesn't change of rotation. This is a cyclotron frequency, and that's how, with a single accelerating gap with a magnetic field, he could accelerate particles. And with his student Livingston, they built this first cyclotron in 1931, again around the same time. But it was diameter of 4.5 inches. It would be held in a palm, and accelerated protons to 80 kilovolts. But Lawrence, he had a great drive, and he kept on started dreaming big, and he started making bigger accelerators, and he finally ended up in Berkeley. The last cyclotron he built was about 180 MeV protons. It could accelerate. There were problems, of course, with that. If you see the relationship, in fact, for Lawrence when he first started, this gamma was just 1 because non-relativistic. So this frequency was independent of the energy. But as you go up in energy, the gamma increases, so the frequency drops. So the frequency drops and there is a limit. In fact, Bethe worked out that the limit of this our cyclotron will be 20 MeV protons. After that, there will be frequency slippage, and you will no longer accelerate of phase. But that was circumvented by around 1945 by these two gentlemen, Macmillan, again working at Berkeley, and the Wexler in Russia. They found out the principle of phase stability, and also that as the particle energy increases, they gave two solutions. One is that decrease the frequency. So they change the frequency as the particle energy increases. So this is called the principle of the cyclotron. And as the particle gains energy, increase the B. So that's another way of doing it, the cyclotron. So these two ideas came. And then this is the principle. Finally, today, the circular accelerators are all cyclotrons, going to very high energies. So with this, I just broadly classify this as I just told you, the two types of accelerators, the electrostatic, which are cascade generated, the Cocker Proton, the Van de Graaff, which then modified into tandem, use the same voltage twice. The other type is the electromagnetic, where it could be two types again. One could be resonant acceleration, the other is non-resonant acceleration. Under this non-resonant acceleration comes the induction accelerators and circular electrons. These are not very much used for making high energy machines, but for very specific uses they are used. This is like a transformer, acts as a transformer. So the RF field, the coil, the electrons themselves act as a secondary of the transformer winding. So you put a large pulse, they change the field with a high frequency, and the electrons pick up the energy. The resonant ones are the ones which are used in all the modern accelerators, where you use cavities and waveguides to generate the very high voltages. And it could be again two types, linear and circular. The linear ones, the LINAC and the radio frequency quadrupoles. This is the principle of the Widerøe principle, linear acceleration, and the circular acceleration, which is invented by Lorentz. Cyclotron and cyclotrons. Large number of them were built in the post-World War. After the radio frequency for the power sources were developed during the war for the radar, and that kept the impetus to build these large. They could make practical. The large accelerators could be made practical because they needed a lot of power. Cyclotrons was invented around 1930, and then it was actually 1930s, late 30s. It was invented in Stanford, and then it was then the actual development took place in large-scale industrial development took place during the war, Second World War, in the 40s, and then in the late 40s they started building these big accelerators. Again, it was first Lorentz who started using them in big way. And so you have these two sets of accelerators, low energy, which are used for probing nuclear structure, nuclear reactions, studying nuclear reactions, used in material science, modification of materials, atomic physics studies, and radiation biology. And for the high energy accelerators are used for particle properties and substructure of particles. Now, as I said, if you want to increase the further, so far all these accelerators are using all room temperature, the normal conducting magnets with copper coils and cavities made of copper. So the field that can be generated in such cavities was limited by the resistance of the material itself. As you pass a current through a coil in a magnet in a copper, there is always some loss, the I square R loss, heat loss. So that much has to be taken away and cooled. This whole system has to be cooled. So if you go to very high currents, you generate a lot of heat, and that has to be dissipated. So that puts a limitation to the normal magnets, the field that you can generate. You can generate of the order of 1 to 1.4 Tesla. with a normal magnet, room temperature magnet. After that, it saturates. So if you want to go to higher field magnets, because as you go to higher energy particles to confine them, you need to increase the magnetic field as well. So to get higher fields, you have to go for a new technology, that is superconducting magnets. Because the field that generates is promoted the number into I, the current. So if you increase the current very large to get the high field, so you have to reduce the amount of heat dissipated. So if you go to superconductor, there is no loss in the superconductor. So you can get very high fields. And for generating high accelerating fields at the low power, you go to superconducting cavity. Instead of copper cavity, you make a superconducting cavity. So again, the losses inside the cavity is very low. In a few watts of power, you can generate megavolts of fields. So that both of these lead to smaller size of the accelerator and lower the cost, which has allowed us to make the very, very large accelerators today. Just as a one aside slide, this is not part of the thing. I thought I'd throw it in just to those who are not familiar with the cavities. The magnets you are familiar with, you know that if you just put wound a coil around some kind of a iron, or even in air, you make a loop, and you pass a current through that, you will generate an axial magnetic field. That's the principle of it. So the magnet. Whereas in the cavity, what you do is you put inside a closed metallic wall, you put an RF power of a given frequency, and that particular frequency, at that frequency, the whole cavity will resonate. That means there will be some kind of an electromagnetic mode, oscillations will be set up inside the cavity, where is full, either a water wave, or a half wave, or a full wave can be sustained. A standing wave can be generated. A standing wave of electromagnetic nature of different types could be a transverse electromagnetic EM, transverse electric and magnetic field, or transverse magnetic modes are set up. Different modes are set up. And in those modes, if you can put the particle in the direction of the electric field, they will get accelerated. In the right phase, at the right time, when the field is peaking. At that time, you introduce the field. So, for example, here I've given two examples. One for non-relativistic particles like low energy heavy ions. That's there you use a quarter wave resonator. A quarter wave resonator is like a flute. You know about the sound wave, the resonators, where you have a lambda quarter wave length, and you blow a particular frequency, it resonates. Where at one end, which is the node point for the voltage and the antinode for the current, and the other end, open end, is the node point for the current and the antinode point for the voltage. So the voltage peaks here and is zero here, and then oscillates. So across this point, the central conductor, that goes to very high voltage, and this is the field depiction. And you put a particle at the right phase, or at the time when this is, say, attracting, you put the particle in, it gets a kick. As it goes to this metal system, is a drift tube, which is a field-free region, it goes across, and at the time when it emerges, the field changes by 180 degrees. You arrange the velocity as well as the frequency in such a way that this condition is satisfied. And so it gets another kick. So it gets two kicks in the same structure, and so it gets accelerated. The field generated here in superconducting such cavities, these lambda by 4 cavities, can be of the order of 10 megavolt per meter. So in one such cavity of small size, you can get several megavolt acceleration if it is superconductor. These are used for the heavy ions, and these are existing today in India, in two places, in Kolkata and Delhi. In Mumbai and Delhi, TIFR and IUSC. And these for relativistic particles, this cavity structure is slightly different, and use the transverse magnetic mode. It's small like a donut, hollow donut inside, or a tube, or like a patila. Didn't say. So the field is generated in this way. A particular frequency, the eigenfrequency of the lowest eigenfrequency is such that the field is in this direction, electric field, and the magnetic field is in the circumferential direction. So when instead of the particle comes in here, again it gets one shot. It takes about 1/2 of the cycle. It gets accelerated. Then you can check these kind of structures one by one, and you can accelerate particle across this structure. These are used for electrons and protons mainly, and these structures are used for heavy ions. The further increase of energy came from using the idea of the collider. Instead of having you can have an accelerator where you have the particle beam and the target is fixed. So this is many of the low energy accelerators are like that. For the heavy ion machines are like that. The application oriented machines are all like that, where the target is fixed and the particle comes in. But the energy in the center of mass for doing the physics, especially for high energy physics, when you need to increase the energy available in the system, as you go up, as the particle becomes relativistic, this keeps on going down, and the increase in the energy does not go up linearly with the particle energy. Energy available in the center of mass. It goes as square root of the projectile energy. And so you don't increase any further as you go very high energy. Whereas in the case of the colliding wave machine, the incident and target particles travel in the opposite direction, and the energy goes linearly as the particle energy itself. So this is why all the high energy machines are colliders. Okay. The things to keep in mind is that again, for doing the high energy experiments for high energy physics, what is important is finally the collision of the wind and the total rate of reaction, because you are looking for always events which are extremely low probability, like the Higgs boson discovered came out the first cycle when the first let's say beam collided, the two proton beams collided. They ran for several months, and they got some 3 or 4 events of 3 months of beam time. So it's an extremely rare event. So that means you have to put in lots of particles. You have to keep colliding, and then in one chance of say a billion or one in trillion, they will produce the reaction of your choice, the particle of your choice of the thing, the phenomena which you are studying. So you need to produce lots of particles. Now, especially when you are hitting with a fixed target beam, all you do is your target has to be such that it envelops the entire beam. If it does that, you are assured of utilization of all the beam particles. So this is the flux goes in, and you have a target, and the event rate is given by the luminosity, which is this product of phi, the rho t into L, the flux into this density, and the cross section of the probability of the event. This gives you the event rate. But in the case of colliding beam, this beam is coming like this through bunches. 2 bunches are coming in. This bunch must overlap, and the overlap density has to be large. Otherwise, you don't get the collision. So this is a product of the two beams. We call it projectile and the target, or whichever way, 1 and 2. In this case, it could be electron and positron. If you have electron positron collider, this is the frequency of collision, the frequency of revolution in the circular system, and these are the widths, 2 widths of the beam. So if you can reduce the widths, you increase the luminosity. So your chance of the collision increases. So this is where the emittance of the beam, the focusing of the system is important. The number is important, and the width and the focusing emittance is important. That's what Professor Joshi was talking about. In the case of wind-driven acceleration in the PWFA, they have been doing all this effort for the last several years has been to get this, preserve the emittance across the beam path and the acceleration, so that finally you get the collision of choice, and you can get large number of collisions, as large as possible. So you have in circular colliders, you have high repetition rate. In linear colliders, it's lower repetition rate because it's lower. In the linear colliders, it's just one shot only one collision. Whereas the linear collider, the same particle, if it hasn't collided, it can come back again and you have another chance. So if you have the high frequency, the number of times it keeps on going around, you have your chance of collision increases. The solution is use more particles per bunch to increase your flux, lower the emitance through cooling. Now, this is another thing which came up in later, because what was found that the particle being, when you have any kind of source, in an ion source or electron source, when you generate the electrons from whichever process, say electrons are using by thermal emission. Let's say you heat a filament and the electrons are generated. Now, when the electrons are being generated from there, they will have all the 3 degrees of freedom, the three velocity components, the momentum components. Now, when you pull them in one direction for acceleration, you are increasing one of the momentum. The other 2 momenta are also there. These are the 2 momenta which throws them out of the beam. This gives you the emittance, the transverse emittance. Now, if the transverse emittance is large, you lose them at the end. If it could even be that if it starts having collisions in the way, it can increase, emittance growth can increase through collisions or through dissipative events in the path. Now, sometimes you not only use the primary beam that comes from the ion source, you use the secondary products. Suppose you have a proton beam bombards and you generate new particles and you want to accelerate them further. These particles will be generated with very high transverse momentum. And if you cannot take them out, so you have to cool the beam. That means this transverse momentum has to be reduced without sacrificing the normal longitudinal momentum. That was discovered, this idea of cooling came, and the 2 gentlemen discovered that separately 2 different modes of cooling. One is the electron cooling by Gers Budker in Russia, and by Simon van der Meer in stochastic cooling in 1972 at CERN, working at CERN. And both of them have been successful. And this gentleman's method, stochastic cooling, was used in CERN for cooling the antiprotons, and that was used for the discovery of the W and Z bosons. And that's why he got the Nobel Prize, along with Carlo Rubbia. So this cooling of the beam allowed the lower beam sizes, and so increased the luminosity of the beam particle. In fact, high energy physicists always talk about luminosity. They don't talk about the total flux or the number. They talk finally about the luminosity. That is, how many particles are there per centimeter square per second. Now, if you go for the collider, circular colliders, you will see that these ones, the large machines, are all circular colliders. Now, circular machines, there is another concomitant power loss is there. Especially for relativistic particles, there is a loss through synchrotron radiation. In fact, this was a big nuisance for accelerator builders, that you try to increase the extra power of the energy of the electrons in a circular path, and the electron starts radiating it out. The more you pump it, the more it radiates. So this was a big problem. And so that, in fact, forced the colliders. Future colliders will be all linear, especially for relativistic particles like electrons and positrons, because the diameter otherwise becomes too large. The large electron-positron collider, which was there in the LHC tunnel. Right now, what is called the LHC was earlier, before 2000, it was the large energy electron-positron collider in the same tunnel. And it was 180 GeV center of mass. 90 GeV electrons and 90 GeV positrons were going around and colliding. And the last of this breed. So new electron-positron colliders will be linear colliders, what people are thinking about. Because the power radiated goes as gamma to the power 4 and R inversely as R square. So as the increases, gamma increases, the energy increases, it keeps radiating very large. And the only way to keep the power low is to keep very large R. So it will be increased. CERN itself is already, the LHC itself is 26.7 kilometers circumference. So you have to think of bigger, 100 kilometer circumferences. People are thinking about it right now. In fact, they are on the unpaid people are thinking about it, but we don't know whether they can fund it, because the larger the area, that means you have to make tunnels of that big. So building cost, the machine cost, it just keeps going up, and it has gone to a stage where no country can afford, single country can afford it, and it may probably, the whole world may not be able to afford it any further. So what are the limits of acceleration? I mean, the other way is to make, suppose we are able to increase the acceleration limit, we can get more acceleration per real estate, distance of real estate, then of course we can make bigger accelerators. Now, in the known technology, what are the limitations? Let me tell you that. One is for this case of static voltage, that is electrostatic accelerators, it is the two things which are dominant. One is the breakdown electric field in air is 30 kilovolt per centimeter. So maximum terminal voltage that you can put in air, dry air, is about 3 megavolt. In fact, normally in a room like this, if you want to put, of course, the walls have to be a little further. If you want to put a voltage source, maximum voltage will sustain, that can be sustained in air like this with moisture, will be about a megavolt. In fact, the very first machine I worked at TIFR when I was a student was a Cockcroft-Walton generator, which is Cockcroft-Walton's machine. That's 1 megavolt. And it was in a huge, big hall with 16 feet, about 24 feet high height. And there was a big dome on that. And it used to go to 1 megavolt. And especially when in Bombay it will rain, the outside moisture will go up and the voltage will spark. The whole thing will come down crashing and it will make a big loud noise. So I used to all scare away visitors. When the visitors, I wanted to get them thrown out, I'll just increase the voltage surreptitiously from the control room so that it'll have a splash, voltage splash down, and everyone will run out, thinking that there's something that happened. So today, the largest working electrostatic accelerator in the world is at Oak Ridge in USA, a tandem of 25 megavolt terminal voltage and 10 meter diameter, filled with sulfur hexafluoride at 80 pounds per square inch. As a dielectric, to increase the dielectric breakdown potential. Now, limit of RF field in vacuum is about 20 to 100 megavolts per meter, depending on the frequency till you are 1/4. So you go to higher frequency, you can generate you can sustain a slightly higher field. Now, highest field achieved so far in a superconducting cavity is of the order of 60 megavolt per meter. I'll show you some pictures of superconducting cavities, which we have built in India. Highest steady field magnet that has been made, this is in Florida, the National Magnetic Laboratory, High Field Magnetic Laboratory, 45 Tesla. But it's a very small bore diameter, only about 1.25 quarter inch, 32 millimeter diameter, and it requires power 30 megawatts of power to generate this field. So you can see that to make these magnets of this type is for large size of kilometers is almost impossible. At the moment, unthinkable economically. Steady magnetic field over large area has been established on 10 to 15 Tesla. Yes, over several meters definitely has been generated in that range. Now, to give an idea of what the size of the accelerator would be with this kind of field, the B rho, which is the important thing for bending basically the momentum of the beam, it is given by in very convenient terms as 3.3 the momentum of the particle G by C in Tesla meters. Tesla is 10 to the power 4 Gauss. So if you put in 10 to 15, 10 Tesla here, you see the minimum rho is 0.3 pGV for so many meters. So if you have say 100 teravolt particle, if you want 100 teravolt, which is something like 10 to the 4, you see it's already something like 300, about 3,000 kilometers, 300 meters, almost 3 kilometers. Minimum rho is 3 kilometers. So you already have something like, for 100 TeV, you need to go over to just keep it in that. You need several tens of kilometers radius. So it will come to very large. That sort of gives a limitation of the size of the magnetic field, magnets, and the size of the machine. And this gives you the, again, if you are for a linear accelerator, this also gives you the limit. So 100 megavolt per meter, if you do, this is with niobium, the superconductor which is presently used today. And people are trying out various different superconductors, different types of coatings, and the properties of the material. Actually, the breakdown, the highest field comes, the limitation comes from the field emission mechanism. So in the vacuum system, you keep this cavity, which is made of niobium. Now, as the field increases to 100 megavolt per meter, at the surface, the field that is there increases, it crosses the value of the work function of the electrons on the surface of the metal. So the electrons just pulls up. So the barrier, normally in a metal, these electrons are flowing, and there is a work function which is the potential barrier. Now this potential barrier voltage, you have put a very strong magnetic field, this potential barrier has come down. So the electrons just come out of it. This is what this field emission is. So field emission takes place, and once the electrons start coming out, they'll multiply inside, and they'll drain out all your power. All the electric field that you have set up will be drained by these electrons, low energy electrons. And so you will not be able to power your beam anymore. So that's the limitation. So this is the Livingston plot. The guy called Livingston, he plotted this thing in around 1970 or so. And you can see from in this plot that the energy has been really. Again, Lawrence is a student, Livingston. This is the whole cycle of all Lawrence lineage. This is in fact, later on, the FermiLab Wilson, he was also Lawrence student who went to Cornell and then finally to FermiLab, built the FermiLab. You see the energy, this is in log scale, and this is with the year. And you see every 10 years, it has gone like an exponential. The energy of the accelerators have gone up exponentially. Now, this has been possible not with the same technology, but every time the lines which are different colored lines are drawn are for different technologies, different types of accelerators we have built over the years in those times. And you see that each type of accelerator, the technology that was used, ended and reached a saturation point. Some other technology took over, but this growth has been same exponential. We have reached here already LHC, and of course now the ILC, the International Linear Collider, is being planned, but the energy is not going to be much higher than that. This is where we have reached. Now this energy which is plotted here is not the actual energy of the beam, but the energy of a projectile assuming a fixed target, equivalent. So for a collider, for example, these are all colliders, storage rings and colliders. So their energy is, for example, let's say 7 TeV of protons. So take 7 10 to the power 12, but the equivalent energy, if it was a single, just a fixed target accelerator, it would be 10 to the power 19 eV. Beam coming and hitting a fixed target, as if it was there. So that energy has been going down. Okay, so you reach even energy, the possibilities we have been discussing in this workshop. There's a first one is the breakdown of the medium gives the limitation for conventional accelerator systems, that is the niobium cavities. So use a broken down medium, which is a plasma. Plasma is already broken down, you can't break it any further. So that's what you will do, and you use new sources, the lasers, and you will see that over this week that the gigavolt per meter is possible, but then there are issues which I talked about in the beginning, which has to be in mind that you need the numbers, you need the emittance, and to get the numbers, you need to generate them and repeat these pulses again and again, so that you get sufficient number at the end per second. and so many, and carry all these particles through to the end. So these issues have to be confronted. So you have all these various options. I'll not go into that. Now I'll tell you about what is the, so far we have the largest accelerator, as you all know, is the Large Hadron Collider, which is 26.7, and there are 4 experiments going on at this point. Indian presence is there in the machine, as well as in the experiment. This experiment, CMS as well as Atlas. Sorry, not Atlas, CMS and ALICE. This is the CMS is for the studying the proton-proton interactions, and the particle physics, studying the beyond the standard model or the various symmetry issues. And ALICE is for hadron, the large heavy ion collisions, so going to very high density states, studying the quark-gluon plasma. We have Indian contributions, accelerator, detectors, and experiment, as I said, and well, these are the details. So, Indian scenario, what kind of accelerators that we have in India today? One is the first. I first started with the variable energy cyclotron center, not just because I'm coming from these. I associated with this place, but the first large indigenous accelerator was built in Kolkata, the variable energy cyclotron, which is the K140 variable energy cyclotron. It's a room temperature magnet and about 18-inch diameter, and can accelerate protons and heavy ions. And had started operating in about 77 to 79 period. 77 they started the beam. First beam was extracted, but finally the experiment started around 79, 80, and it's still running. That machine is still running today. In fact, recently I just a few months ago I made an experiment here. I conducted some experiment with nuclear in basic nuclear physics here using this. So this is being used still. They went ahead and built a superconducting cyclotron, which can go to much higher energy heavy ions. It has seen the beam inside, but they had some difficulty over taking the beam out, extracting the beam out. So that process is going on. It's running into some troubles, but they're trying to solve it out. K is a factor which is connected with magnetic field, that B-rho. It's Q squared by A squared into this number if you put, and gives the final energy. Q squared by A into this number, K. It's a power of the bending, basically. And now they have a radioactive ion beam facility also. To starting with this beam from this machine, they can generate the secondary radioactive ions, which they are accelerating. They have accelerated this to up to this point so far, and the rest of the machine is being built, so that this will be in the year end. This should be completed. This part, which will deliver radioactive ion beams of the order of 1 MeV per nucleon. Low energy, the radioactive ions. Then the Delhi Center, which has the electrostatic accelerator, is a Pelletron accelerator. 15 UD, 15 million volts, is in the right of the middle, and then the ions are injected. Negative ions are injected from here. They change the charge changing is done at the terminal by stripping, and they are pushed down, and finally goes to different big lines for experiments for nuclear physics, atomic physics, material science, etc. And then we built when I was there, we built a linear accelerator, superconducting linear accelerator for energizing these heavy ions further, double the energy. And these are the cavities, these quarter wave cavities which are there lined up in a cryostat. And these are all parts. Some of them were built in collaboration with the Argonne National Laboratory. And then later on, the second module was built with collaboration. The second and third module were all built in-house in Delhi. And the TIFR also has a Pelletron. In fact, this Pelletron was started operating 2 years earlier than the Delhi Pelletron. In fact, I did the very first experiment on this Pelletron, because I was there. I was in TIFR at that time, and the very first experiment was done by my group at this machine. And this also had a booster, with the superconducting linear accelerator, but they use the lead as a superconductor plated on copper, lead-plated copper. And that was taken up in TIFR, and in Delhi we did the niobium-based superconductor. TIFR BRC, yes. It's a joint project of TIFR BRC. And the fourth center is in Indore. I think you have heard about their machines yesterday or the day before, and they have two storage rings, electron storage rings. One is a 40 MeV storage ring, which is Indus 1, and then 2.5 GeV storage ring, electron storage ring is 2.5 GeV, Indus 2, and these are used for the generating synchrotron radiation for material science, surface science, and atomic physics, and protein structure determination, etc. So these are the home-built systems that we have in the country, and we have new accelerator programs taken up by the National Facility for Unstable and Rare Isotope Beams at VCC, much bigger way, and then accelerator-driven subcritical systems at BRC, that is using an accelerator in conjunction with a subcritical reactor, so that the transuranides, which is produced in the fission, can be burnt away. And also it will be used for other, it has higher efficiency in total, and you can use almost any kind of fuels, like the thorium can be utilized in this situation. The other program is at RRCAT, the Indian National Spallation Neutron Source, and then there are free electron laser programs at RRCAT and IUAC. So the free electron laser, I don't know, you probably have already heard about. If you have not, this is basically an electron accelerator, goes through an undulator magnet, and it generates radiation, which you take out. Now, this has the advantage that you can have a modular approach in this, that you generate, suppose you accelerate electrons to 5 to 10 megavolts, you can use them to generate terahertz radiation with the 10 to 12 hertz or so, which can be used for different types of experiments. In 50 to 100 MeV, you can go to infrared visible soft X-ray. Greater than 1 GeV, you can generate hard X-ray. So you can do an entire set of it can be a very versatile light source from terahertz to hard X-rays. In fact, you do inverse counter scattering. You heard about John Joshi's thing that you can get, or Professor Nam's lecture, that you can do inverse scattering, counter scattering, and generate gamma rays with this kind of machines. This is the schematic of the National Facility for Unstable Rare Isotope Beam in Kolkata. So it envisages a LINAC, electron LINAC with a photo fission to produce the RIBs, and the fission fragments will be separated out and then put in as ion source, ionized further, and then accelerated through a set of accelerators of different types, and then used for different experiments at different energy ranges. And then finally, of course, they have a very ambitious program of putting in a Higgs cyclotron to go to very high energy radioactive ion beams. The accelerator subcritical system, different subcritical system, because it consists of, schematically, it looks like a proton accelerator of 1 GeV, very high powered proton accelerator is required to put inside the subcritical reactor. The idea is that if you can, for each of these protons of 1 GeV, will produce 25 to 30 neutrons. It can produce. It's optimal around 800 GeV onwards. Beyond 1.2 GeV, you really don't get any further neutrons per MeV. That saturates around this 800 to 1.2 GeV. So you use a 1 GeV proton beam, generate these neutrons. These neutrons, the numbers should be such, there is a threshold roughly around 2 to the 10 power 16 neutrons per centimeters per second. If you can generate, then the transuranides which are produced in the reactor, they will be burnt before they can beta decay. This is the idea, that the neutrons will one after the other will come so fast that they will capture, the 2 neutrons will be captured rather than 1 neutron capturing and beta decaying. and producing long-lived isotopes. So thereby, the output of a fission reactor, especially the long-lived actinides, which can live for 10 to 5 years, the effective time for their decay, you change to only 700 years. From 10 to 5 years, it will bring down to hundreds of years. So the storing the waste product becomes less of a hassle, less of uncertainty. It's 100 years is not so bad because you see the geological system, the repositories which you are thinking about, we know that they are stable up to 1,000 years at least. There are several ones around the world. It will not come out. Whereas if you are 10 or 5 years, you don't know. In the range of 1 million years, we don't know what the movement of the Earth system is. Yeah, your beam has to go in. No. The beam has to go inside the reactor. Yeah. So what is going on all around the world, all over the world, every country has a program on this subcritical reactor system, ADS system. So because there are a lot of technical issues, engineering challenges, and you have to, the total power that you produce here is of the order of 10 megawatts. And 10 megawatts of power inside the reactor, and to keep the system intact. The heat flow, all this, the thermofluids, thermomechanics is very, very complicated, how to handle it. The Spallation neutron source, again, you start with a the whole set of small different types of accelerators will be there. There will be this front end will be a radio frequency accelerator, and then some normal structure, then was taken over by superconducting structures, accelerator, linear accelerator, again up to 1 GeV of the order of a milliampere protons that is required to generate neutrons, very high flux of neutrons, which can be used for other purposes. A neutron generator is of great use in structure studies and in producing other neutron-induced reactions as well. That program has been taken up at RRCAT. We have international collaborations also during the developments. We have an international collaboration called the Tesla collaboration, which is the TeV superconducting linear accelerator collaboration worldwide. We are members of that. And their task is to build design the international linear accelerator. The first design study has been done. The CTR has been, conceptual design report has been generated. The superconducting cavities are the ones which will be adapted, and so far at this moment. FermiLab, we have a collaboration with FermiLab for high intensity protons that meshes with our domestic goal of the ADS as well as the Spallation neutron source. And FermiLab wants the high intensity protons for the high muon source and the high neutrino factory. Contributions, we are contributing to the facility for antiprotons and ions research in Germany. There is in Darmstadt, they are going to build a big accelerator complex of tens of GeV per nucleon beams, and we are contributing we are partners on that. This is the international linear accelerator, which is at the moment the design is of this type, where it will be about 16.5 kilometers from each side. A proton beam will start, a positron beam will start from one end, and the other 31 kilometers away, the electron beam will start. They come and meet, and they cross. And you can see the parameters which are expected, the ones which are required. It could be 250 GeV to start with, and it will be upgraded to 500 GeV each. So the collision energy will be, that means 500 GeV or 1 TeV. And you can see the luminosity which is expected is of the 34 centimeters per centimeter per second. The beam size of the order of 730 nanometers by 8 nanometers. So the length will be 730 nanometers, and the width is 8 nanometers beam that is expected. So you can see the type of controls and the type of focusing and emittance that is required for such kind of a machine. So this is what has to be achieved. And it will require this kind of cavities, 16,000 cavities. So it will require to be built in different parts of the world. No single place can deliver this kind of this number in a reasonable time. And you have 1800, so there will be 1800 cry modules. Each module will have something like 4 such cavities and 1800 cavities and so on. Huge. The total cost is, at the moment, it's estimated to be more than $10 billion. And we don't know when it will be started because we don't know where it will be started, where it will be. Japan has already proposed, they have accepted, I think it was in the parliament, Japanese parliament has accepted that if 50% of they are willing to give up to 50% of the cost to house it in Japan. So the rest of the 50% has to be agreed by the rest of the countries. No, nobody has made an offer yet. So this is still open. But of course, people are waiting for the results of the RRCAT further to see what kind of physics comes out. And because the design may change depending on the physics that comes out. Yes. Yeah. Right now, this kind of machine even, see, that's why earlier it was thought that you need minimum of 500 GeV each. So now the Higgs has been found at 125 GeV. He said 250 GeV each is good enough to study the properties of Higgs in great detail. So it reduces the cost, obviously, because it tells by half. But the design, the place will be designed in such a way that it can be upgraded later. So again, we are also partners in the study of this, and we have contributed some small things in the whole thing. And the fair, this is the machine with the storage ring, which is 20 GeV per A, and we are to supply the beam diagnostic chambers of the entire path, and the solid magnets for these fragment separators, power supplies, high power cables, high power beam catcher. We are actually contributing 3% of the cost of production of the machine. This is our contribution. And in return to that, we will get the beam time. For fair, the total cost estimate is 1.2 billion euro. Yeah. So 3% is about 36 million euro, which is itself quite a lot. Yeah, we are giving 3% in kind, not in the cash. We are making building. So the idea is that with this building thing, some of the technology we get, because we are getting help from in the technical qualification, the QA, all the details that they give us, the technical details, so that we can make it in India and get our, for example, the vacuum chambers, we are already trying. There's a firm in Pune which is making it right now, this diagnostic chambers. It will be observed at -9 torr. At that level, such large capacity quantities, we have not made. Our vacuum industry is not, and has not been making this kind of thing. So if we are able to successfully make this, then they can make it for our domestic programs as well.
Large complex of many accelerators.
Yes.
With so much of traffic.
Yeah.
Traffic of beams.
Right.
So you have proton beam, anti-proton beam.
Anti-proton beam, yes, proton beam and heavy ion beam.
That's all.
Yes. Oh, these are the various ways. So this is the old GSI which is existing so far.
The anti-proton annihilation, that will be the anti-proton beam.
Yeah. Panda is yes. Panda is anti-proton beam. Anti-proton beam storage. This will be in storage ring here. This is storage ring. See, anti-protons will be created and then stored in this. Cooled and stored for experiments. The Indian Institutes-fermilab collaboration. So there are these institutions are involved in that collaboration: VRC, RRCAT, VCC, IUAC, and Delhi University. This is a 3 GeV LINAC, it is 1 milliampere, which will further go into 3 to 8 GeV rapid cycling cyclotron or LINAC, and then finally will be someday in 120 GeV for neutrinos of 2 megawatts of power, neutrino beam. And these will be used for muons and for ADS kind of stuff, and then the nuclear physics. So in this, we are collaborating in this building and design and the also component building. Different types of cavities that have been designed, and some of them have been made in India also. This we have made some of the beta 20.22, beta 0.61, and beta 0.9 have been made in India, in collaboration in India. The other one, which is people are just on paper, the ideas are coming, that we have multi-megawatt superconducting cavities for the muon and neutrinos. You have to go have 10 to the 21 muons per year stored in this kind of ring for muon-muon collisions. People are in electron-positron collider, you have mu plus mu minus colliders. The Chinese have suggested that they will build, they have put a proposal, 80-kilometer circular tunnel, and they will go up to 100 TeV protons. But similar things can be done at the LHC left tunnel can reach up to 26 to 32 TeV, provided we have the magnets developed for that. So that requires challenges to develop 16 to 20 Tesla magnets. So in India, what are the preparations that you have done so far for the future for these things? One is the development of the superconducting cavity, RF cavities, in a combination this RRCAT, IUAC and VCC collaboration under Indian Institutions-fermilab. So first we made these single cell 1.3 gigahertz cavities, which the very first two that were made, this was designed jointly with the Fermilab and RRCAT. It was fabricated, all the mechanical work was done at RRCAT, and the electron beam welding, final welding was done at IUAC. And it generated the fields which are extremely good. The acceptance figure for the ILC, the Fermilab collaboration, this collaboration was 31 megavolts per meter. And our very first two cavities went up to 35 and 38 megavolts per meter. So we are at par with the rest of the world in making these cavities. Then we made these spoke cavities 0.22. This was completely done at IUAC. And then single cell beta 0.6 cavities was done, was designed by VECC Fermilab collaboration. And then it was machined at VECC and welded at IUAC. This was also performed very well. It has surpassed the design figures. These ones are the ones very similar to the ones which I showed you for ILC, the International Linear Collider. Those are being built. First, a single cell was built. Then this was five cell was built. Again, with the RRCAT making the fabrication and the final welding done at IUAC, namely, and 9 cell cavity has recently been made in again same way. And all of these are performed very well. The RRCAT has the distinction also of making the world's first laser welded cavity. This was done by electron beam welding. See, the reason why electron beam welding is required in vacuum, because niobium is a getter material. It gets oxidized very fast. As soon as you put it in air, niobium gets the oxide coating. So especially when you heat it and when you join this thing by welding, it just will get oxidized. And if it's the oxide layer somewhere stays in this surface, so you have a superconductor, oxide superconductor, so you have a SIS junction, and there's a lossy junction for the RF currents as they flow on the surface. See, the radial is when we have 1.3 gigahertz or 600, 700 megahertz, the currents are flowing inside the cavity, the standing wave is generated. The currents are flowing in the surface, very large currents are produced. Thousands of amperes flow on the surface. Because it's superconductor, there is no loss, very little loss. But now, if it encounters a very small spot, which is non-superconducting, the heating will just go on. It just gets heated, it will glow as a hot spot, and it will kill the superconductivity immediately. So the whole cavity will quench, all the power will be reflected back, and it will damage your system also, and it will be loss of heat. So these surfaces have to be extremely pure, and then there will be no impurity is tolerated. So this process of developing these cavities is technologically a challenge, because you have to maintain the surface to their pristine superconducting level, and also have special clean rooms to assembly. That's why when you see the assembly going on, it looks like as if it's like a space compartment. And a space, the precautions they take for putting in semiconductor devices or in spacecrafts, same precautions have to be, the clean rooms have to be used for assembling such things. So that not even specks of, I mean, the air has to be filtered in such a way that in a volume of cubic meter, you have not more than 10 particles. So this is called a clean room of size 10. That is 10 particles per cubic meter. Normally, in a room like this, the number of particles that you have in a cubic centimeter would be up there of several million. So you have to reduce that. Magnets also we are able to make in the country. Superconducting magnets, there is a the superconducting cyclotron, that winding was done completely in-house in VCC. And we have also made some magnets at IUSC, small magnets with 6.2 Tesla. Even the wires, magnetic materials, they are being made now in the country, NFC Hyderabad and RRCAT Indore. They are now making these wires for niobium titanium for making these magnets, superconducting magnets. In fact, this will be used for even for the meter, also it will be useful for our contribution. And the liquid helium for all this niobium has to be kept at liquid helium temperature, so you need liquid helium plants. Normally, we all buy from the companies that are, in fact, today, there are only very few companies which are making the liquid helium plants in the world. There is one at France, the Air Liquide, and the other based in Switzerland, there is the Linde. They have the kind of monopoly over the helium plants all over the world. There were some in the US, they have all been merged to either this Air Liquide or Linde have bought over. So, especially for our strategic purposes, there was some development in the helium plants, and in BRC, they have developed a refrigerator turbines have been made, and in RRCAT also there is an indigenous liquefier has been made. So, in summary, he said that we have over the higher and higher energies have been delivered the accelerators as the demand went from the physicists came for going to higher and higher energies, probing into smaller and smaller length scales. New methods and technologies have been found and taken up for this, developing these accelerators all over the world, and these technologies have found immediate practical usage. In fact, the very first accelerator, that big accelerator, 10 MeV accelerator, 10 or 15 MeV accelerator that Lawrence built, was used for immediate medical applications. In fact, Lawrence's mother suffered from cancer, and she was irradiated with the neutron beam from that. Ernest Lawrence's brother, John Lawrence, was a medical doctor, and they teamed up and then used this beam from his cyclotron for treating their mother. In fact, they used it for a number of cases for the therapy right from the beginning. So all the accelerators have been used for practical purposes right from the beginning, right from the word go, when the first accelerators were built, and they are continuing to do so. We have in India, we have state-of-the-art accelerator process. As far as the current technology goes, we have the technology in the country, and we have developed all the relevant technologies in-house in different parts of the country, and we are going ahead. But as I have tried to point out to you, there is a limitation finally with the conventional accelerators of the technologies that we know today. And we can go up to 100 megawatt, maybe 150 to 200 megawatt by change of some materials. But that's kind of final limitations, and it will be an end of the conventional accelerator, the presently known technologies giving you high energies. So we need high technology, some new technology has to come up. Maybe this laser plasma technology will come. Of course, you keep in mind that when you try to develop that, you keep in mind what is required from the accelerator physics community, that the number, the input, that is flux, as well as the emittance. These are the two factors have to keep in mind. So for anyone who wants to join in this thing, is exciting times ahead. Thank you.
Just a wild thought. I mean, space technology has improved.
Yes. In fact, it was done by, for me himself. He had thought about it. He had this idea of this accelerator in space. In fact, for me, he said that use the magnetic field of the Earth and then let the particle go around the Earth. That gives 25,000 kilometers. Yes, it's possible to think about it, but of course, taking these components up in space and putting them and then cosmic rays, of course, cosmic rays are there up to 10 or 20 eV. They're already there. No, we are using it. But the number is so small. See, the cosmic ray flux goes again as a power law. As you plot the number as a energy, functional energy, they keep going down by a decade, one factor of 10 every, I think, how much? 10, some 50 MeV or 100 MeV. So when you go to 20 EV, the number so far, I think all over the world, there are probably 2 or 3 events of 20 EV has been found. And that too in these large, extensive air showers. Arrays. Like this one we have Uti.
Like one particle in 1 square kilometer per year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So if you want to do experiment with that,
there's no limit. There's no limit. Nobody has seen any limit to the cosmic ray.
Right. There's no limit.
That's one thing which we should still remember. Much of particle physics knowledge came from cosmic ray.
Yeah, the ideas came.
Took over only after the cyclotrons came.
Yeah.
Only after Lawrence
Yes.
invention of cyclotrons. Until that time, all the particles, pion, kaon, lambda, sigma,
They're all seen in cosmic rays.
all the original particle physics came from cosmic rays. But now, even now, I think cosmic rays have a role to play. But as you said, the flux is so small and they cannot get precise hints.
No, even then it will be same because see, density of the cosmic rays is not going to change in wherever they go on Earth or in, and the highest energy particles do come to the Earth, and you can see the Earth. You don't have to go out. Money has done only about 675 crores has been released so far. Yeah.
Is the Indian government willing to support such long-term projects?
At the moment, it is still there on the anvil.
So now there's been a governmental change.
There has been no change in the plan so far. I mean, we haven't been told that this will not be supported or they will stop it. So we don't know how the money will come.
What can you show me tomorrow instead of light? So this is something that concerns one. I don't know if you have any insight, any more perspective.
No further. Okay, DAE is still at the moment there is no plan. I mean, after the 12th plan, there has been no plans. Plans have been thrown out.
That is
Yes.
a new paradigm now.
Yeah. So now.
Wonder into this government 3 years. 3 years. Yeah. So how does that fit into that kind of thing?
Well, you can. You see, in principle, it's possible to break them into smaller packages.
We can, but provided that
Because if it
this will be delivered.
yes.
You can't tell me I'll go 2 steps and then I'll stop.
Definitely. No. For example, the Anudeep project is structured in such a way that every small, it's not 3 years, but it's over 5 years, packages can be made and you can get deliverables in the sense of course, not deliverable that is sold in the market, but yes, it is some deliverable as physics-wise, physics possibilities.
I agree.
For example, you can.
I can give you intermediate tools, but the